Welcome back to Lonely Man BGs. In this video on how to play Althingi, One Will Rise, a game designed by Joshua Gillingham and published by Outland Entertainment. Althingi is a historical game of political strategy, where players act as district chieftains in Viking Age Iceland, and struggle against the other districts to gain supremacy and take control of the Althingi. This is done by any means necessary, such as bribery, extortion, and even bloodshed. We'll begin by looking at loot cards and Viking cards, the main components of the game. Both loot cards and Viking cards have values in red, representing strength, and black, representing influence. A Viking strength value is used when fighting duels, called holmgangs. A Viking strength can be enhanced by equipping loot, for example, the sharp sickle, which provides 1 extra strength. A Viking's influence value shows the minimum bribe that a chieftain must satisfy using loot to gain the Viking to their district. Additionally, Viking influence counts towards a chieftain's final score at the end of the game. Players will use the influence portion of their loot cards to tempt newcomer Vikings to their districts throughout the game. Note that each Viking has preferences for loot, both a weapon type and a treasure type, which gives a strength bonus of +1 if equipped to the Viking, or an influence bonus of +1 if used to bribe the Viking. Althingi is played in a series of rounds, made up of 3 stages: morning, afternoon, and evening. At the end of each round, the Law Speaker card is passed counterclockwise to the right. Rounds will continue until all Vikings have joined a camp, and once this occurs, the end of the game, known as the Althingi, takes place. The chieftain whose Vikings have the highest collective influence will control the Althingi, and this wins the game. Every round begins with morning, where each chieftain draws 5 loot cards. These are kept in the player's hand, hidden from other players' prying eyes. Players should note their previously chosen district bonus while drawing loot cards. For example, this player chose the side, which allows the player to draw 1 extra loot if they were challenged to holmgang the previous round. If fewer than 5 loot cards are left in their draw pile, the player simply takes all remaining loot during this phase. Afternoon follows morning, and new Vikings arrive at Thingvellir. 3 Viking cards are drawn, and each new Viking is placed on an open field. These are placed in the middle of the field card, allowing the cardinal directions on the card to remain visible. Note that more field cards can be opened up as necessary to accommodate new Vikings. Now, the chieftain who holds the Law Speaker card or coin will choose which Viking to approach first, choosing to either pass or to bribe. If the chieftain passes, play simply moves clockwise to the next chieftain who has the same choice, pass or bribe. If passing, the chieftain can no longer add bribes for that Viking. To bribe, the chieftain will place 1 loot card face down from their hand to the field corner corresponding to their district direction. In order to gain a +1 influence bonus, the chieftain can place the Viking's preferred treasure loot, which is the strong spirits in this example. Play continues clockwise around Thingvellir, allowing chieftains to add additional bribes to a Viking or pass. In order for a Viking to be successfully bribed, the value of the bribe must be equal to or greater than the Viking's influence shown in the bottom corner. It must also be greater than any other chieftain's bribe. For example, a successful bribe of Edis the Noble needs to sum higher than a value of 5, which honey mead and imported wine do with ease. Even nobles fall to the ravages of a good drink. Once all players have passed, bribes are flipped face up to determine which bribe was successful. In this case, the bribe on the left, consisting of 2 cards, only sums up to a value of 4, while the bribe on the right with a single card boasts a value of 5. The Viking then joins the chieftain with the highest bribe. Any loot used in either successful or attempted bribes is then returned to the bottom of the respective chieftain's loot pile. The chieftain who holds the Law Speaker card or coin then chooses the next Viking to approach, and play continues until all Vikings have been bribed or passed on. If a tie is revealed, as in this example, the tied chieftains may each add 1 extra loot face down to their bribe, starting with the chieftain who began the bribe. If the tie is still not broken, all loot is discarded as usual. The unbribed Viking remains on the field to be bribed again the next day. Evening now begins, and the chieftain with the lost speaker marker may challenge a holmgang by placing one of their Vikings face up near an open field corner of their corresponding district direction. Then the chieftain declares which Viking they want to challenge from another district. In this holmgang, the North Quarter's Grimnir the Elder is challenged and brought to the field. Note that a Viking cannot refuse a holmgang and must join the challenger. Each chieftain has the chance to challenge a holmgang in this manner as play continues, moving clockwise around Thingvellir. This happens until all 8 field cards are occupied, or until chieftains no longer wish to challenge more holmgangs. Holmgangs are resolved one at a time in the order they were challenged. Once a holmgang begins, either chieftain may choose to avoid the fight by discarding 3 loot cards. In this case, both Vikings would then be returned to their respective camps. In a holmgang, the challenger may choose to strengthen their Viking with weapon loot by placing 1 loot card face down beside their Viking. Weapon loot will add the loot strength value to that of the Viking's base strength value. Note that attaching a preferred weapon loot card, like the Elm Bow in this case, gives an additional +1 strength bonus to the Viking. The opponent may then also choose to place 1 weapon loot to strengthen their Viking. This attaching of weapon loot continues until each Viking has a maximum of 2 loot, or until neither chieftain wishes to equip any further loot cards. In this example, both Vikings have attached the maximum loot. Once chieftains are content with how looted their Vikings are, the loot are revealed. Strength values are then totaled, including any preferred weapon bonuses, and whichever Viking has the edge on strength gains victory in the holmgang. Once resolved, any loot used is shuffled and placed back at the bottom of each chieftain's respective loot pile. The defeated Viking is then placed face down next to the winning chieftain's district card. These defeated Vikings earn a player 1 influence each during the endgame, regardless of their face-up influence value. Note that if a holmgang is tied, each chieftain may optionally place 1 additional loot card face down to determine the victor. If the tie is not broken in this way, Vikings are returned to their camps, and any loot used is discarded. Once the first holmgang is resolved and has its victor, any remaining holmgangs still on the field cards are resolved in the order they were challenged. Once all holmgangs are resolved, the lost speaker card or coin is passed to the right. New rounds of play will then begin with the morning phase, and the game continues in this way until no more Vikings are left to draw or to bribe. With no Vikings left, the game is over, and the Althingi now begins. Althingi is the end of the game scoring, where each chieftain determines their final influence. Chieftains will add the total influence value of each of their undefeated Vikings. Additionally, each Viking the chieftain defeated in a holmgang count as 1 influence. Note that loot cards do not count towards final influence scores. The chieftain with the highest total influence from undefeated Vikings and defeated Vikings controls the Althingi and wins the game. When there is a tie for influence, chieftains will compare the total strength of their undefeated Vikings to determine who controls the Althingi. Thanks for watching this video on how to play Althingi, One Will Rise. To learn more about this game, check out the links in the description below.